How are we doing, peddlers? I hope you are all well and fantastic this Wednesday morning, British Standard Time. It's a bit techie, this one. The Imola Grand Prix has been cancelled. Shout out to the two of you that are watching concurrently, or one of you. I probably should have put it on the other channel so you guys could see and give you guys warning. But whatever, we riff. Never mind. The important news is that the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix has been cancelled as of 12 p.m. British Standard Time. It was the announcement. This is what the FIA had to say. Update on the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix at Imola. The Formula One community wants to send its thoughts to the people and communities affected by the recent events of the Emilia-Romagna region. We also want to pay tribute to the work of the emergency services who are doing everything they can to help those in need. Fair play. Following discussions between Formula One, the president of the FIA, the competent authorities, including the relevant ministers, the president of the Automobile Club of Italy, the president of Emilia-Romagna region, the mayor of the city, and the promoter, the decision has been taken to not proceed with the Grand Prix this weekend. This decision has been taken because it is not possible to safely hold the event for our fans, teams, our personnel. It is the right and responsible thing to do, given the situation faced by the towns and the cities of the region. It would not be right to put further pressure on the local authorities and the emergency services in this time. Hallelujah. They got one right, did the FIA. And again, not too long in the memory, 1994, same track, Ayrton Senna. You remember when they carted off Ayrton Senna, notwithstanding the fact that he was pretty much brain dead at the time when they did it, so the show could go on. And I had a very bad feeling, peddlers, I will be honest, that the FIA were going to do the same, and probably would have done the same, but for the pressure of the politicians in the area. They've done the right thing, and we can all breathe a sigh of relief. This isn't the time, natural disaster circumstance, to be concerned about a sport that we all love and are all super passionate about. Hallelujah. Thoughts and prayers go out to those in the region. Rabico, what's going on? Safety first. Absolutely, mate. Safety first. There are lives being potentially, none at the moment, so I'm hearing, but potentially there could be lives being lost on this circumstance, and we're talking about F1. What? Let's get our priorities straight for once. The FI have done the right thing. I will say this, I'll give them their props, but the Lord giveth and Lord taketh away. I do suspect that the FI would have delayed this as long as possible, but for the pressure of said politicians, the mayor. I mean, they've done it before, right? This wouldn't be the first time, let's say, from the FI. Hence why they didn't want to come on here before I heard the announcement nailed. Suspected they go ahead. And again, it was a big one, right? Everybody would come in with upgrades, potentially side pod for Mercedes. Everybody was tuned in. The numbers would have been big. And now everybody has to get refunds. But of course, because their priorities in life. And I know the old Shankly phrase that life and death is important, but football much more important than that. I listen, sometimes sport has to take a backseat. It has to. We all love it, man. But people out here losing homes, injuries, like there's more at stake, man. Let's put the F1 on the back shelf for once. Surely we can do that. Now, I think what this means, peddlers, is that the race has been cancelled officially. What's going on, Will.i.am? I'm glad they made the right call. I know, Will.i.am. I'm keen to do a bit of a deep dive and see whether they made the right call for the right reasons. But you know what? For now, for in the here and the now, all that matters is per Will.i.am that they did make the right call. It is absolutely understandable. Cora, Lolly left to the FA, they would have left it, mate. This is what I'm saying, Lolly. 1994 shows you. Roland Ratzenberger, not long past the bloody track needed to be amended, but they went ahead with the race anyway, didn't they? Because that's the FA. But you know what? 17th of the 5th, 2023. I'm going to give them their props. Here's what we're dealing with, them peddlers. As far as the ramifications, They're going to have to give out refunds, aren't they? Breaking news. Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix is called off after killer floods left parts of Imola underwater, with the season likely to drop from 23 races to 22 races. This isn't a postponement. This is a proper cancellation. Fears the £20 million sterling event cannot be rescheduled. Oh, this is a nightmare for them, isn't it? A proper nightmare. This is a massive financial hit. But again, you can't, like, what are you going to do, man? Unforeseen circumstances, acts of God, as they call it in the insurance world. Like you have insurance for these things, and you've got to swallow the financial what's going on. But it is absolutely the right course. I'm going to read this. Let me read out this article to you because it goes into a bit of detail around the ramifications. The decision to pull the race was made on Wednesday by Stefano Domenicali, F1's chief executive, meaning a host of flights will be cancelled and hotel rooms left empty. The teams have been told to evacuate not only the track but their hotel rooms already because it was dangerous. How were they going to carry on? I feel like they should have made this call probably yesterday. Again, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away as far as FIA compliments and props. Hotel rooms left empty as most of the 2,000 or so travelling circus will now not travel to Italy. Bloody Dora. All the portable facilities will now go straight to Monaco for the next race a week on Sunday. So let's remember the context is we're back to back, right? 3 race weekends straight, which may or may not have that might be a solid actually for the F1 travelling circus. Domenicali acted after speaking to local authorities and promoters. It is understood F1 didn't want to place an extra burden on the community or emergency services. Yeah, right. In the words of my guy Peter Windsor. Yeah, right. That sounds like F1. Mate, they've managed it, haven't they? PR exercise. And listen, that's the move. That is the 200 IQ PR exercise. That was the only move to make, man, because you guys have seen the pictures. I will bring them up here, but I don't want to do the morbid reality stuff, man. But there are people out here that are losing homes and properly having to, like, you can see them with their stuff on their back and like carrying young kids who aren't tall enough to wade through the water. It's hectic out here, man. And I can't help but think that they've made the right call. As much as selfish Cameron wanted to see some racing this weekend and wanted to see some upgrades and Mercedes brings side pods and all that other good stuff, I can sleep easier knowing that the FIA have a bit of a conscience, even if their hand were forced by local authorities. I will take it. Some of the drivers should do a virtual GP for charity. Lolly, I really like that idea, Mary. FI finally using their brains. Is that what happened though, Mary? Or was their hand forced? I suppose more details will come out shortly and we'll get a better understanding. But I can sleep easier. Following discussions between F1, the president of the FIA, the competent authorities, I've read that bit out. That's the statement that they've come out with. But the pictures are bad, man. Here's the salient point, yeah. This is a act of God, a violent storm. Can we all thoughts and prayers, if you're that way inclined, to the guys and girls, the young children of Emilia-Romagna region, man. Like, this is it looks bad. And I can only imagine that to be there in person, it is worse. So, like, I don't know, where do you go? If you have no home to go to, where do you go? Like, the emergency services need to pull out their finger, man. And the FIA, like you guys are alluding to in the chat, need to get behind this movement. Like, it's not about F1 this weekend. It isn't. So I'm super glad. I can sleep easier knowing that the FIA, by hook or by crook, whether it was off their own volition or their hand was forced, ultimately they got to the right place. There can be no San Marino Grand Prix, as they used to call it, Emilia-Romagna. There can be no. And again, you guys will understand that there is a river running right next to that track. Any sort of flooding, any sort of changeable conditions that affect the height of that flood, the height of that river water, again, it's going to flood the track each and every single time. And again, if I hark back to the famous story of Senna and Berger, and again, this is only months before, 1 year I think before Senna's death. They wanted to push back the barrier of Tamburello, right? The barrier, the ultimate, or the turn even, that ultimately saw Senna's untimely demise. They desperately wanted to push that barrier back because they realised it was a massive safety risk. It was a risk. Tamburello's always been a super dangerous turn, but they couldn't. Senna and Berger walked the track with a view to try and campaign and pitch to push it back with safety in mind. They couldn't do it, right, because ultimately that's just the way the track's set up. Beyond the barrier of the Tamburello turn is that river. It's just the way the Imola set up. And I think ultimately the dangers and the preeminent risks posed by that track led to us not going back there for a couple of years, right? People said it was just too dangerous. Tamburello, too much of a risk. Senna died there. Roland Ratzenberger died at that track the same weekend that Senna did. Just too much of a risk, they said. Hence why we didn't go back to Imola, now known as the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. We didn't go back there for a few years. We're back there now, and as brilliant an old school track as it is, sadly the circumstance, the contours of the land around it and the river feature don't lend themselves well to the logistics requisite to holding a Grand Prix every year, because this is going to happen, right? But again, I digress. For now, thoughts and prayers to those living in the area, because now is not the time for F1 talk. Mary probably forced Cam, to be honest. I mean, Mary, if we know anything about the FIA, right? 20 million. Are they going to give up 20 million if they don't have to? They would have left it to the very last minute. I joked earlier that they would have tried to put sails and bloody sterns on the F1 cars and tried to get them round right. Wheel out James Allison's Ineos knowledge. They probably would have done it. 20 out of you watching concurrently. Grateful as always to each and every single one of you on this, the morning of the 17th of the 5th, 2023. So please, they went ahead. Mary, me and you both, we're kindred spirits in that sense. I mean, imagine if you'd gone out there though. Imagine if you'd made arrangements, but again, I suppose your life and your health and your safety and that of your family has to always come first, right? Before any race. So I'm happy. And what we didn't want, Mary, to your point, is another Spa 2021. Massive cop out of a Grand Prix. Don't run around and go into two laps so that nobody can get refunds and then red flag it. Do what you were supposed to do in the first place. Like that's that's not the play. Okay, of course, I know we all wanted to see the W14 and the Alpine and all the other guys. Aston Martin were bringing upgrades. I wanted to see upgrades on racing, but again, everything, all of that stuff is superseded by the safety of the driver, the safety of the personnel, and most importantly, the safety of the people living in the region who are having to deal firsthand with floods, adversity, health and safety above everything else. I don't know. Right, peddlers. Is there other news? There's other news that I kind of want to talk about, but shakedowns tonight, and I want to keep my powder dry. So we'll be filming the shakedown tonight. We'll be talking about all of this, the FIA, their hesitance apparent to cancel this Grand Prix, what it means for the calendar, what it means for the championship, what it means for the Monaco Grand Prix here on in. And that will go live on this channel at some point tomorrow morning, midday, I think. Plan for this big video. I'll let you guys into a secret. I planned for this big bloody video about upgrades and side pods, and I'll do it still, but it's not oh Mary, I'm flopping the case. It will happen, I promise you, Mary, but I'm dying out here, man, trying to juggle so many balls. And tell you what, I promised you already that I'd look at it, but as of June the 1st it will be done. But life is just so busy at the moment with month-end reporting and all this other stuff, all this other boring stuff that you guys don't want to hear me talk about. See Danny Rick and Nick out. Yeah, we'll touch on that. with Goats, Shez, and Baxty tonight on the Shakedown. Look out for that first thing tomorrow morning, circa 12 midday. Thoughts and prayers to everybody out there in Imola, and particularly the residents, because it doesn't look great. You guys will have seen the pictures and been reading the news. You've read the statement. It's unlike the FIA to make a statement so strong, particularly about socio-political issues, right, and acts of God. They tend to, their hand has been forced. They had to make an equivalent statement, and I'm here for it. Fair play to the FIA. Thoughts and prayers to those guys and girls, the residents in the area. I hope everybody, I don't want to read, can't take any more bad news, guys, man. It's too much. 2023, the burden of bad news has been, there's too many people leaving us and getting sick and acts of God, Turkey, like it's just like, oh, yeah. So I hope everybody remains safe, and you'll join me in sending thoughts. That has been it for another chat. You guys are killing me in the chat. Can I get to it? Go on, and then since you guys have been killing it in the chat, I'll try and get to a couple before I log back onto my Excel jockey daily job. SHT, love that name. On to Monaco next weekend, which could be interesting, particularly in qualifying, with many corners on that track. You know what, SHT, I will say this, as long as people have been campaigning, or as fervently as people have been campaigning about Monaco and sacking it off, I've been one of that. I've said similar things. People didn't want Monaco. I'm just answering for those of you who are just joining. We're just gonna talk for 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna get cracking for the shakedown. So as much of people been talking about Monaco and the desire to take it off the grid on the grounds that it's not fit for purpose, the cars are too big, it's too ungainly, you can't overtake around there, the weather's too dodgy around there, even when it is wet, people don't want to go racing around there. Those are the arguments that I hear most frequently around taking Monaco off the track, having to move with the times and modernise. And I suppose the E-Grand Prix that we saw in Formula E is almost testament to that. That happened like last week or whenever, 10 days ago now, I think. It's almost testament to that, right? That E Grand Prix, if you haven't watched it already, I know Formula E is a complete, and I don't rate Formula E as much as the next person. There are gripes that I will always have about it. The concept doesn't sit well with me, especially if it's an either or choice, right? There's not infinite time, so you've got to use your time wisely. I can't watch 1,000 different Formula as much as I would love to. Sadly, F1 has to take precedent because that's the Formula that I've always watched. I don't really have time to go and watch E Grand Prix unless I hear, which I did vicariously by my guy Break F1. Shout out to the guys at the last lap as well, Tomo and Niran. It was an incredible Grand Prix. So I went back and watched the highlights, and it was sick. By the way, I'm talking about the E Grand Prix at Monaco. It was incredible, but the cars there, much lighter, much more nimble. These big bloody F1 cars that we got in 2023 don't work around Monaco, do they? I mean, if it was boring before, as long as I've been watching Monaco since the early 1990s, it's always been a bit dodgy, unless you're counting the Olivier Panis anomaly victory. Like, it's always been a bit boring, hasn't it? The Monaco Grand Prix. But now, more than ever, now that the cars are put on a bit of weight, and these F1 cars in 2023 are gym bodies, aren't they? They're proper tonk. As my so I don't know, man. I hope the Monaco Grand Prix slaps, but I wouldn't put it past it to be a bit of a nonsense of a Grand Prix. That's just my honest opinion, because Monaco is more spectacle than it is race these days. That's where like your Nicole Simones and your bloody Brad Pitts and whatever are going to go, because they're just in town to have a couple meetings, and that's where you'll see them, right? That's where you'll see them, and I'm just I'm a little bit over it. I don't want to do the gatekeeping thing. I really don't. But I have to be honest with myself and my subjectivity is that I haven't been feeling the Monaco Grand Prix for a while. I haven't. It's not entertaining. It's just not. So yeah, I'm. But then again, the counter to do the balance thing, the counter arguments that it is Monaco, eh? It is Monaco, and it is kind of like it's It's one of the last ones, peddlers. Should we be getting rid of Monaco? It's for the diehards that have been watching all this time since like the early 90s. Like it is kind of like, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I'll say this much. It'll be a sad, sad day, the day that Monaco does come off the calendar. I will say that much. Go on then. Monaco's for go-karts. There you go. But you've summarised that very succinctly in words that evaded me. Mary says, can I see Ferrari making Fred a scapegoat? Because already happening, Mary. And I think we're going to talk about this tonight with Baxty and Shez. It's already happening. People are questioning. I see loads of articles with people questioning Fred's credentials, his ability to lead that team and turn that ship around. Because again, I was one of the ones who said that I think Ferrari could go well. You guys can see my monitor here, can't you? I was one of the people that thought Ferrari could go well in 2023, I'll be honest with you. Just by virtue of the fact that their car didn't need that much tinkering with, aside from the tyre deg, the extreme levels of tyre deg that we see them struggling to deal with in the race. I thought their package was sound, that they had, that their upside potential was higher than 8 other teams on the grid, not named Red Bull. Apparently not. Make a mug of me, why don't you, Ferrari and Fred Vasseur? But he's got to turn it around. I think a lot of the pressure on Fred has been brought onto his shoulders by one Monegasque, the apparent leader of the team, Charles Leclerc. I mean, too many mistakes, right? But again, that's something that I'm sure we will touch on tonight with Baxty and Shez on the shakedown. Greetings, Mandler. What's going on? Mandler, Mandler's the next one that I need to... Promise you, mods are coming. I just haven't had time to do admin. Mary Mandler, apologies. I'm gatekeeping. Carrie, I'm also gatekeeping. Stand that Monaco should be either me. Carrie, me and you gatekeeping together. I just feel like it would be... I've said it already. It'd be a really, really sad day. The day when they take away Monaco from the calendar. I don't know. Not great. Right, let me read a couple more comments and then I am going. Lolly, I don't know Monaco. It would be a bit weird. Exactly that, Lolly. You said it infinitely better than I could, Naveen. Monaco and Singapore, the worst track. Singapore? Naveen, how dare you? Singapore 2018. We would not have that memory but for the Singapore track. I hear what you're saying, then, Naveen. It's more spectacle than it is race again. Mandel, I've been thinking, who is responsible for planning of the schedule? This cancellation should teach them to look at weather patterns now and then during that. You know what, Mandel? There's a funny map. If you ever see the map, the schedule, and how the F1 circus travels over the course of the year, it makes no sense that they go like start in the Middle East and then they go Europe and then they go. It's not a tour by any. Like it's massively back and forth, and I think there is something. If there's all this concern about their carbon footprint as an institution, they absolutely want to consider making the logistics of the calendar more efficient. Right, do a proper world tour and just go as the crow flies. Like let's go around the world, surely, rather than there and then back over here and then back to United States and then back. Makes no sense. But again, who am I? Just a noddy F1 fan. Mary loves Singapore. Rabico beat Kailami is going to happen, isn't it? I watched the Lewis interview where he's saying that he is having lots of conversations with the hires up about trying to bring Kailami on. I think if you talk about like diversity and inclusion and all those things are high amongst Sir Lewis's priorities, absolutely also among those priorities is having a race before he retires in Africa. Kailami would be perfect. But yeah, there you go, Rabico. It's a money and infrastructure issue. Who is going to plump up the funds to facilitate the Kailami Grand Prix? Honest question. The Kailami track, I know we raced around there once upon a time, but before my day even. But all that I hear about the track is that it's not necessarily fit for purpose at the moment. So a lot of funds need to be plumped into the infrastructure as a track, and obviously you've got stands and like there's a ways to go before we hold or before Kailami as a track is fit for purpose for holding F1 races. That's what I was saying. That Rabico, it's a money issue. Rabico at this stage, be quicker to go through the issues that aren't money issues than those that are, right? Always a money issue, everything. Even the Emilia Romagna cancellation being delayed. Owners don't want to put the money back. Yeah, right, guys. I'm going to go. Shakedown will be out midday. I'm going to put a community tab, like a post on the other channel. If there's something that you want us to broach and talk about on the shakedown, let us know in there. Might be live chat time this weekend. Remember, Kylam is a track. It was a sick track, wasn't it, Mary? Some really, really good races. Imola would have been the first European Grand Prix of 2023. Yeah, there you go. William, you said it, man. I swear, I'll try and post it up in the community tab. There's a graphic that shows the way that the calendar travels, and it's so like back and forth and random. But again, it's all about promoters and what money they offer up, and kind of when their high season is for having tourists in that. Like it's all, I suppose, in the Middle East, you've got to factor in Ramadan and like Eid. Like there's all of these like political balls that the FIA have to juggle with the calendar, but the resultant pathway is chaos. They've got to do better than that. Not very efficient. Kayori says, I hope to see it come to fruition. Me too. Right, peddlers, I'm going to run. I've got 1,000,001 things to do. It has been good. I just wanted to say that about the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, that the news is out. The race has been cancelled officially as of 12 p.m. British Standard Time this morning on the 17th of the 5th, 2024. Yeah, of course, Cameron. 2023. I am happy. But again, the salient point is that what the FIA said in their statement is more than just, it's not lip service, right? Thoughts and prayers to all of those struggling in what ostensibly is an adverse act of God, a flood in an area very, very prone to flooding. Have a good day, each and every single one of you. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to try and do another live chat at some point over the course of the weekend. There will be a video coming out at some point. I'm trying to get it together, peddlers, but I am a technological numpty. Storytelling apparently not my forte. Trying to tell these F1 stories one a week. But listen, no. Thank you guys for joining as always. Infinitely grateful to each and every single one of you, particularly to those who have joined the channel and support, particularly to the moderators. You guys are legends, and without this channel, without your support even, this channel will burn to the embers, and nobody wants that. I don't want that. You don't want that. And Ringo here definitely doesn't want that. Shakedown will be out tomorrow morning, 12 p.m. British Standard Time, arguing back and forth with grizzled F1 scholars Shez and Baxty. Video at some point. I'll try and do a live chat this weekend. Between now and then, the next time we see each other, hug somebody that you love, please. More important now than ever. I'll see you next time. Look but never stare.